We're breaking down anything and everything Utica City FC related. This is the Keeper's Corner podcast with your hosts, Matt Sterling and Brandon Brooks. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to another edition of the Keeper's Corner podcast. I just got to fix our screens here for a sec.
Great intro.
They did not set up where I thought they would. Okay, I'm not clicking on the back.
It'll be a smooth show someday.
Yeah, well, now that I've got everything lined up for next time.
It'll change again next time.
No, I think I got things set up at least to look semi-professional this time.
If you say so.
Wow, just crap all over me, why don't you?
It's what I'm here for.
Well, what? You said you wanted to crap all over me. I called Utica to lose on Friday night, and they pulled off a come-from-behind overtime victory over Kansas City.
That was oddly reminiscent of a previous Kansas City game.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar.
It was... Yeah, it felt like I'd seen it before. Utica goes down by 3 goals, comes back, wins it in overtime with a score of 7-6.
Yeah, where have we seen that before? Oh yeah, last year at the play-in game.
the last time these two teams faced each other.
I mean, okay, you could put it like that too, but you know, we're both right.
I haven't touched anything. Why did my... I swear OBS is trying to give me a stroke.
Also, I'm not exactly dressed fancy tonight, so sorry. You're getting the Ghostbuster t-shirt, and that's about it.
Look, this was here, so... I may or may not have been in pajama pants all day.
I mean, why not? That's how I've been.
So how is everyone doing after this sweep of a weekend that we had?
Sweep. I mean, I would think that if you're a Utica fan, you're feeling pretty good at the moment, considering that this just kind of helps to, at least, if not completely solidify our spot in the rankings at this point, at least show that, hey, we're not just only good against Baltimore and Harrisburg.
Mm-hmm.
This at least shows that, hey, guess what? We can stand toe-to-toe with literally at that time, the best in our conference and beat them. Now, granted, on their home turf, which is tough. It's always tough, but Kansas City, they're one of those places that just, it's tough to play in. And it was a hard fought game. I think it would have been less hard fought if we played 4 quarters, but I'm sure we'll get into that. And yeah, we came out the other side of it with a W. I'm all good with that.
Yeah, we did. It was as you kind of mentioned, a bit of a tale of 2 halves, which we'll get into. But as always, let's start this with a stat that tells the story. And you yell at me for making you go first, so I'm going to take it.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
Utica's defense showed up.
Yes.
And not just in net with the return of Andrew Coughlin, but the field players combined for 14 blocked shots, including Santana, NDI, and Alava each having 3 blocks.
Yeah. No, they definitely stepped it up a bit and, didn't just lay it all at the feet of the keeper, which is great to see.
Yeah, you are forcing some tough angles. You're making it a lot harder for the ball to get to the keeper, making his job easier. And it showed, especially in the second half. A couple of those first half goals, it was starting to look like the same old song and dance on defense.
Yeah, I mean, that first half just kind of had me worried. It had me worried that this was going to be a game that, frankly, Utica fans just didn't want to watch. We kind of almost didn't. We forgot where the gas pedal was, or we forgot where the clutch was to be able to shift into the higher gears. Just we didn't really get things rolling right away. Now, I want to say part of that. Well, I'm not going to say part of that is due to, but I think one person in particular didn't kind of get their ball rolling early, and to me that was Coughlin. Now, I'm not saying he played bad at all in the beginning. I'm just saying it was almost like he was warming up. It was almost like he was getting back in the groove. He had been out for a while, and at first he kind of seemed a little stiff, and then him and everybody else just picked it right up. It was just a night and day. But anyway, getting ahead of myself. Yeah,
you did, because you still got to give your stat that tells the story in this one.
I wanted to get out of it. I mean, honestly, it's going to sound like a cop-out, but I think that this stat helped us in both games. And that's just Andrew's save percentage. I mean, I factored it out, and I think on the weekend, he averaged like an 8.15, something like that. I mean, he had a 77.8% in the first game, and he had an 83.5, I believe, or 85.5 maybe it was on the second game. I'm actually going to look right now because I don't remember. He had a 8.5. So I mean, he had a fantastic weekend. And because of his kind of veteran experience coming back on the field and honestly, providing some more coaching, almost like on the field coaching for these guys and, kind of keeping them directed, I guess you could say. It just seemed like it really helped. And so, I mean, having him back in net was fantastic. Not that Wilkin and Julian did not do a great job, but it's like we talked about before. It felt like the confidence was there knowing that he was back there. So, I mean, I'm just going to say it now. My stat for both of them is literally his save percentage.
Okay.
Because he played out of his mind on both of those games.
No, it was great to see him back out there. We talked about it off chat or off the show where I said the difference between Coughlin and Wilkin is the ceiling. Yeah, Coughlin's ceiling is higher than Wilkin's. Wilkin on his best day is probably Coughlin on an average day, which Coughlin on an average day, that'll win you games. But when Coughlin is at the top of his game, he's right up there with anyone in the league.
Do you want to address the question, chat, or wait? We have a question from Hoovering Hans.
I think we can get to that in kind of the takeaways from this game.
Fair enough. We'll get to it.
Okay. But play for me that really changed the game is that first goal right out of the second half, 22 seconds in. You caught KC napping. 20 seconds in, they're on their heels. You kind of woke them back up, but it certainly helped shift momentum after going down 4-1 and looking lifeless at times offensively in the second quarter.
Yeah. Yep. got a bit of a different take.
Okay.
So my momentum shift did not actually come until the shootout, in my opinion.
Okay.
Now, the reason for that is up until then, even though we had scored a couple of times, we had been able to bring it back to within one. We had never really tied it. We had not tied it back up. I mean, we hadn't tied since the first quarter. So for me, the momentum shift was beating out Neto when Gordy beat out Neto in the shootout, because after that, that's when Neto started to mess up. I mean, he came out too far, he got beat, and we got another goal on him because of that. And then after that, his head was just completely out of it for the rest of the game, it felt like. And when you take Neto out of it, I felt like we took the rest of them out of it. They just had no confidence in Neto at that point, or it didn't feel like they did. Or they at least had a lack of confidence. Maybe not completely, lost confidence in him, but they had much more of a lack of confidence in him after that point. And that's when things started just kind of coming downhill for him. Then they had to be chasing us at that point, and they're just like, what do we do now? We haven't had to chase up until now. So that's where that was my play. That's been my play since I watched that game.
I'll say this about the play where Neto came out and gave up the goal.
Yeah.
I think that was the right play to try to get the ball. No one else was getting there. It was going to be Utica or him. I think his mistake was just not immediately, like, Fernandez had you by half a step, just take him out.
Yeah.
Get the blue card, sit in the box. Yeah, you'll probably give up a penalty shot or a shootout, but
you were probably going to give up a goal
than
anyway.
Easy empty netter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could also point to the pick-me-up that wasn't a pick-me-up from Ramon Palmer, where he fouled Gordy and then did that slick little I'll help you up and pull his hand back.
Yeah.
Not saying that was bad juju, but Kansas City has been outscored 18-7 since that. In a game and a half.
They didn't have a fun weekend. Their woes definitely continued after us. They did not have a good time. They did not have a good weekend, and we did. So.
Yeah, always be a good sport, guys. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little bit stitious when it comes to sports.
I hate it here. I want to go home. Oh, wait. Yeah, I agree. Like, just be a good sport regardless of how the game's going for you, no matter what, or, whatever's happening in the game. Like, I know that we've had this conversation many times. It's like, do whatever on the field to an extent. But obviously off the field, then that's where once the whistle blows, it's done. But that could also kind of go in between plays too. Like once the whistle blows, like, hey, you're just people. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw some people were like, well, how was that not a taunt when Fernandez got called for the yellow card for taunting?
Taunting.
Soft.
Yeah.
Softest taunt I've ever seen. Especially when, like, the next game, there was a moment where Logan got taken down, and I think it was Kranz stood over him and, like, pointed down and yelled at him while he's on the turf. It's like, that was the most obvious taunt I've ever seen, and it didn't get called from an official 6 feet away.
Up until then, I don't think I had ever heard of a taunting call, or if I had, I just did not remember it. But it was just like, really? Taunting? I could not believe it. I really couldn't.
Something that's got to be worked on.
Well, I mean, normally I would say our special teams still need work, but I mean, we were at least 100% on our power plays. But I mean, we are also, 0% on our penalty kills. So, I mean, I still saw some off target passing, things like that. I mean, you're going to have that pretty much every game. But there was a lot less of them. There was a lot more on target, a lot more, just looking better, looking at, like, they're actually going where they're supposed to go and not just kind of like willy-nilly kicking the ball and hoping that it makes its target. So, I would say just they kind of need to keep the course at this point, keep with the corrections they've been already making, continue to improve on that as we go. It's kind of where my head's at.
Yeah, mine, we all know I'm a fan of defense, and I think it got cleaned up in the second half, but the first half showed that they still need to be a bit more decisive defensively.
Yes.
That Mikey Lennis goal that tied it up at 1. If you go back and watch that, you see him come off the bench. Frank is kind of keeping an eye on him, but he lets Lennis get behind him, and then he's already too far behind him for an easy pass to get set up in open territory.
Yeah. Yep.
Got to close that down faster. And then on the next one, the Leo Gibson goal, Mo was a half second late.
Yes.
Yeah, like you watch the attempt at a tackle, and he's tackling where Gibson is, not where the ball is.
Right, which
at
of
that
course
point, the ball's past you.
Yeah, and I mean at that point, that's only going to go poorly for us.
Mm-hmm. But that's what it is, unfortunately.
Yes, it is.
Hopefully this team will clean it up, be a little more decisive for all 4 quarters, and that'll make a difference moving forward. We're not out of the woods yet with difficult games.
I guess that's another thing is just I feel like, we're probably mentioning it in both games, but you got to play 4 quarters.
Mm-hmm.
In both games. Now I cut a little bit more slack on the second one because we played not only a hell of a game the day before, but also had to go into OT. So on the second game, I kind of understood the mindset, but this one, I mean, it just felt like we didn't get warmed up and ready to play until after this at the second half. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if we're going to go out there, we play like this is maybe not our last game, but it's the one we need for the playoffs. Something like that. Something that this is the one game that we need, and we need to go in that every game with that mindset. And play 4 full quarters every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1 quarter off can kill you.
Yes, it really can.
We saw it in Milwaukee. That third quarter that was off, put them behind the 8 ball, and they never recovered.
Nope. No, they did not.
So, your positive takeaway from this one?
We had Andrew back. Really though, the positive takeaway was, again, we improved our power play. We even though we only had 1, but we still were 100% on it. So I mean, that's number 1. Number 2 is we had Coughlin back. I mean, that's a big positive in and of itself. Again, both Brian and Julian are great keepers, but I really felt that Andrew helped to give the confidence to the rest of the team. It was more of a morale boost having him back, knowing that he was back there to kind of clean up their mistakes if he needed to. And I mean, there just some of his plays, and in both of these games were, I mean, punching the ball right out of, right so that people weren't, heading it, and just all over the place, jumping around like a madman. So I think those are my two, I guess I give you two positive takeaways. It's just the power play improvement and Coughlin being back.
For me, it's the thing that I ranted about last week and said is why I couldn't trust them, is they cleaned up the stupid mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they get called for a 6-man in the next game, but there were no 6-man in this one.
Yep.
Again, that yellow for Fernandez was pretty soft. Maybe the one you get him on is Nilton's 4 fouls in the first half. Like, you got to be aware that he's at 3 and just keep him out for the half.
Yeah,
I know you're down, but there's enough other offensive. And 6 in a game. Look, you got 2.5 minutes left. You're tied. You're going for the win. Any player's going to be out there with 5 fouls.
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, it was a bit of a shock because I don't think we had ever seen a red card for that particular thing. I don't think I can't remember a time when somebody's fouled out. We've seen red cards, obviously, but
I do. I remember last year, Florida at Utica, Ricardo Carvalho fouled out, but then when you actually check the books, he only had 5 fouls.
Oh yes, you're right. All right, so I couldn't remember a time when Utica had done it, but yes, I do remember.
Yeah, it's extremely rare.
Yeah. Oh, I guess Nilton just got to rein it in a little bit. But at the same time, I mean, he was playing rough. I mean, I think, who is it? I was looking at the leaders today, and I want to say him and Tayu are like top 6, top 7, something like that for most fouls.
Most in the league.
I know they're tied for most shorthanded goals. Because there's literally like 7 players tied with 1 goal.
Yeah, there's been 7 shorthanded goals, and 5 of them happened within 2 games that Utica was involved in.
Yeah,
which is just ridiculous.
Oh, it is. It really is.
But huge comeback. It's funny that this is the second game in a row where these two teams have played. And Utica trailed by 3 goals in the first half, and came back to win it in overtime by a score of 7-6.
Yeah. The fact that it's happened twice it's weird. It's not what you'd necessarily expect to happen. Literally back to back. I mean, these guys don't play each other that often. So the fact that, they end up getting literally almost the same order of events and the same score in the same way, not like we got 7-6 in regulation this time or anything. No, we got 7-6 in overtime again. I mean, that's just, it's weird. It's just, it's not something you'd expect.
No. I guess let's address the questions from Hans. Do we think KC was looking past us to Monterey, and that's what caused their second half collapse?
I mean, you could say maybe to an extent, but if your head's not in the game and you're looking ahead like that, then I mean, you shouldn't be playing that game to begin with. So personally, I'm kind of wondering if they went hard early for the same reason that we typically go hard early. They just want to hit us with a quick, fast offense because, if you watched the past couple games, one of the things that we had problems with was getting back. So they tried to do the same thing to us, and they succeeded for the first half. Problem is that takes a lot to do. And I think they tuckered themselves out a little bit. And in the second half, it's like, hey, we're still fresh. We're still good. Now, just a slight speculation on that part, but I don't know. That's just what it seemed like, is maybe, like we take the pedal off the gas. Sometimes I think they did too.
Okay. I think that's part of it. I think the other thing is Kansas City bought the narrative that Utica wasn't one of the top teams because they beat up on Harrisburg and Baltimore and then got beaten when they went and played Tacoma and Milwaukee.
Yep.
And they looked sloppy in both of those.
Yes, they did. Yep.
And I don't know what happened besides the team focusing and getting things under control. I'm going to pretend that somebody played them my little rant about, you can't just rest on talent. You have to be focused, take every game seriously. You don't want to end up like my high school team. I'm going to pretend that it was involved that.
Okay. Fair.
But they were much more focused in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Everton made some halftime adjustments that got the transition game going in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And, the adjustments worked for Utica. Kansas City wasn't able to adjust on the fly.
No, they were not.
And then they went down to Monterey and got smacked around. And now they play Chihuahua tomorrow. And Chihuahua's coming in, right? They play Chihuahua tomorrow.
I thought they played Monterey twice. Yeah, they play Monterey twice.
Oh, they play Monterey twice. Okay.
Yeah, so they're playing Monterey and Monterey again. So they get to get...
Oh, Friday the 19th, they play Chihuahua. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And yeah, Chihuahua's coming off a dominant victory at San Diego. So...
Yeah, I mean, holding him 4-0 until the 7 minutes left. Yeah, it was nuts. I had to watch that one.
I wanted to, but I was beat from a rough week and not focusing on anything at all.
Oh yeah, I get you.
Other question from Hans. Would you put Coughlin in the mix for MVP?
I mean, his record obviously is a bit misleading because even though he, as a keeper, is 8-0, the team is not. So, I mean, he does have a lot of saves. He's not top of the league right now for... I think the only thing he's the top of the league for is wins. Because he is 8-0. But everything else, I mean, he's high in the leaderboard, but he's not the top. I mean, I think, let's see, I just pulled it up. Goals against average. I mean, he is in second, right behind Monterey's. He is in third for save percentage, behind both of Monterey's keepers. And he is, number one for wins and number 6 for total saves. They should have that goalkeeper assists, just so that he could have that from last year. But is he MVP material? I mean, if he stays the course that he did this past weekend, boy, I could see him being a contender for it. But I think that we would have to, consistently see what we saw this weekend every week. And yeah, I think maybe he would be at that point. Yeah.
Okay. See, I think for that to happen, the conversation around the league needs to change. And that is just that goalkeepers aren't seen as MVP for one reason or another. You look at Boris Pardo last year, 23 games, a 21-2 record, a 3.8 goals allowed against, 209 saves, a 726 save percentage. And when the MVP discussion was happening, at least in the fan groups online, there were a lot of people that were just like, no, he's a goalkeeper. How much of that is because he has a really good defense in front of him? And then you look at like the league leaders right now on offense, and I know Morales is up there. Reggett has been talked about. Pereira sits atop the table, and he's averaging 3.5 points per game, which is insanity if he could keep that up.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially if he makes the playoffs, because like we've said in past seasons, Tacoma without Pereira is not a playoff team.
No, I couldn't see that. I mean, just watching him for the past couple of weeks. I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with for sure. And yeah, Pereira is, I mean, he's the top of like 3 of these leaderboards, as something I was seeing earlier. I'm like, points, assists, and points per game. I mean, he's just the top dog in 3 categories already. Not already, but you know what I mean. And yeah. I think that, I don't know, he's definitely, he's up there and he deserves to be up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think another thing with the problem with goalkeepers is, and I guess this goes to your point, Hans, is the valuable part. Look around the league at the drop off between starters and backup. Pollo Cortez was dealing with some contract issues. We're going to see him this weekend when the Outlaws come to town. In the 6 games, or in the 5 games before, Jesus Rivera was in goal. The Outlaws were 2-2-1. He was giving up 7.87 goals per game and had a save percentage at .669. Pollo comes back. They're 4-1 in those games, and he's giving up 4.68 goals per game, over 3 goals per game less, and his save rate's at .750.
Mm-hmm.
He heard Hans. That's 7. That's anyone. Most teams, you take their starter out, and the drop off is going to be around the same.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll most likely see that no matter which team it is. Mm-hmm. Just because you're talking the one that's getting the most play time, the one that's not just practicing and is getting the real world game time much more frequently than the person that's a step down, and then the one that's a step down from that. Mm-hmm. It's like once they get in that groove, they might start to step it up and be closer, but they're never going to. It's very unlikely that they will be completely equivalent.
Mm-hmm. I mean, before this weekend, the one game that the Comets sat Neto for 3/4 of it was the one game they lost.
Yep.
That drop off exists. It is what it is.
Oh, exactly.
Let's talk about the game from Saturday. Because after that overtime win, Utica traveled across the state to the Lou and took on the Ambush in a game that I don't think was ever in doubt.
Only a little bit, I think. And that's because of, what was it? It wasn't last year, was it? Or was it 2 years ago? I'm trying to remember when St. Louis came to town. It was supposed to be a game that we should win.
We should have. I think it was last year where we should have beaten them at St. Louis and we lost. But that was before we got our defense last year.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just one of those games that, I mean, I was a little, I was saying, we should definitely need to make this one a statement win if we drop the ball at Kansas City, which we didn't. I honestly, by the end of that game, I was basically saying, I mean, if we lose this, oh well, we played a heck of a game. And I was basically saying before, I said it last week, if we lost Kansas City. We need to make a statement in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up kind of doing both. We just completely blasted them in the first quarter. And it's like, wow, all right, we're here to play.
Mm-hmm.
Second quarter, a little bit more of the same, and then just nosedive.
Yeah.
Literally. Now, here's why I was saying what I was saying before about why I understood a little bit of the nosedive on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Just coming off of the night before, tired, had to travel, had to, had overtime, and then had to travel and play this game today. So they probably, it's kind of like what Kansas City did the night before, went super hard for the first couple quarters and then backed off and slowed up. I would have loved to see them keep the foot on the gas the entire time, but I could understand why they didn't. And, you got to tire out at some point.
Yeah, both teams had played the night before, so that kind of worked out in Utica's favor.
Right, because they played Milwaukee the night before. Yeah, because they lost, I think it was 5-2, if I remember right. 5-2. Yep. Exactly what I figured.
Yeah. I take it that's your stat that tells the story, is the fast start to the kind of cooled off second half.
I already told you my stat.
Goalkeeper saves.
Yeah. I'm not changing it. You're not getting 3 out of me.
Okay. Well, look, mine is the power play. We had 2 power plays. Correction. Gordy converted both of them.
Double G.
Which finally we're doing something after going ice cold on power plays since the second game of the year, I think. Another one where Gordy had some power play goals down in Baltimore.
Amazing. Gordy came back and we do decent on power plays. Well, okay, no, that's not true because last weekend we didn't do great. So
okay, so that ambush game last year was a 7-3 loss at the Adirondack Bank Center.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that was a game that we were supposed to win and didn't.
Yeah. I think that was the one where we kind of were like, we need defense, we need it now, or we need to see a change of leadership.
And then we got Steph.
Yes. And Toby's visa got cleared. I'll be honest, I don't know if there's really a play that changed the game in this one. Much like the teams, even watching it, I was zoning out in the second half.
Yep. I honestly was struggling on this one myself. Mm-hmm. You could just do a cop out and say a certain goal, but there wasn't any big standout moment that really felt like, oh man, we're definitely going to be, we're going to keep hammering down on them, or, we've completely taken the wind out of your sails. There wasn't a substantial standout play. And not that that's a bad thing. It was just kind of a by the books play, or by the books game. That's really what it kind of felt like. Mm-hmm. Although I really did like Mo's rocket. Mo's goal was pretty. But so I guess if I had to give anything, a gold star, I would say Mo's goal was absolutely just from the yellow line, just done.
Mm-hmm.
That one, yes, that one was very nice.
Yeah, I'll say this about the ambush. I like that they added Vic Moraligue after he was cut by Dallas. They don't really have enough offense to be enough of a threat. They don't really have enough experience, quality on defense to be enough of a threat. They'll win a couple games here and there.
Yeah.
But they haven't really been good. They snuck into the playoffs 2 years ago when Kansas City rested a bunch of people in the final game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And knocked Utica out of the playoffs doing so.
Yep. Yes, they did.
It might be time for a certain co-owner of the team who's also the GM and acting head coach and has been since they parted ways with one Everton Marrera. So thank you for him, by the way.
Yes.
But it might be time for him to step aside and try to get a real coach in there.
Ouch.
Like, I know they're down a bunch of players, but even at full strength, they're not a great threat. They're
I mean, Togba gave us a run for our money there a few times.
Not
What?
When the sell-off begins, we'll take him.
Give him back to us.
If he'll come.
Oh, fine, I guess. Wow, as we both decided right then and there, we gotta take a drink. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Hive mind.
But to your point, Huber, since you said we can use your real name.
Oh, is that who that is? I never would have guessed.
Yeah. Yeah, they were without a lot of guys for injury, but they're also guys that have missed time throughout their careers for injury. So something's got to be said about the GM bringing in injury guys and then hoping they don't get injured.
I mean, don't you always hope that guys don't get injured?
It's one of the big complaints that I've had in Yankee fan circles for the past few years. It's like, we've had trouble with injuries. Wouldn't it be nice if we bring in some free agents that don't have an injury history instead of getting guys who have missed 6 games here, a half season there?
You don't want the injury-prone ones?
Yeah. It's fine to have 1 or 2, but you can't have a chunk of, a significant chunk of your roster being injury guys.
Right.
The positive takeaway is my stat. You got your power play starting to click again.
Yep. I definitely agree. I mean, we're improving on the power play, which is good. We're not just sitting around doing nothing with it, as we've seen for years this team do. One thing that, I guess I'll save that for improvement. I mean, I would say for me, positive takeaway was, you mentioned the power plays, and I'm going to mention the defense. Yet again, we had a ton of block shots. It wasn't all just down to Andrew. We had a lot of people breaking up shots. Mo was the top among them with Wanalava. They tied it at 4 apiece. And then you've got Gordy and Nelly coming in with 2, and then you've got a trickling with a few other people. So I mean, you can see who our top defenders are in many situations. I mean, Alava was another one that was just all over the place that game. I felt definitely played at pretty close to a full game, compared to like you said, for the first game, tale of two halves. First half we didn't do much. Second half we did a bunch. This game, first half we did a bunch. Second half we didn't really. We took the foot off the gas and let the defense do defense things, and they did, and it shows in the stats. So yeah, I mean, positive takeaway is, we may not have much of a defense, but it seems to be there, at least this weekend, when it counts.
Yeah, not really sure what was said in practice. With trivia last week ending up getting canceled and Timmy sick because of it, you really have to wonder how many of these guys were playing under the weather last weekend.
Yes.
Which, if that made an impact, we'll never know, unfortunately.
Right, of course.
We might know, but it's too late to say anything about it now.
My guess, the way I see it, is if it hits one, it's going to hit. It's going to go through at least 50% of the roster. It may not be a full-blown thing for every single person. Somebody might have a stuffy nose. Somebody might be, for whatever reason, their lungs are constricted. Somebody else is coughing. Somebody else got a fever. Like, it doesn't matter. It's still going to be a detriment to that player and to the team.
But unfortunately, it is what it is, and it hit at possibly the worst time if that's what happened. Well, not the worst time, that'd be playoffs, but one of the worst times.
Yes. But we made up for it this weekend, and that's I felt we made up for it this weekend. Maybe not fully, but it's a darn good start, and we just need to keep that trend going.
Yes. Don't think there's really anything else I want to talk about in this one. Officiating was the usual, inconsistent. I don't know how Nelson got away with that tackle that even went to video review. I'm like, that's a blue card.
Well, I think the only reason is because he got ball first. I really think that's the reason. Is yes, it is only because he got ball first.
I don't even know if he got ball first. It's really hard to tell on the angle. I think that's just it. Is it's hard to tell on the angle because I don't even know if he got ball. If it did, it might have been incidental.
Well, I mean, they had enough proof to overturn it.
They didn't have enough to overturn it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it came down to.
Yep. No,
but it was also a Brian Wilson officiated game, so we know what those are like.
Yeah. Yep, I spotted them, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I see how this is going to go. Yep. The only thing that I wanted to mention was a thing for improvement. Is we sometimes fall back into our old, what do I want to say? Our old offensive ways, in and of the fact that periodically we'll get up to the front and we just start passing it. And we aren't really trying to open stuff up. If they're going to the sides, going to the middle, moving the guys around the sides, while they collapse in to try and get around that, that's doing something. But when you're just kind of going around the U over and over, other than killing clock, that's about all you're doing. Which it's fine if we have a substantial lead, as we did, for a little bit in St. Louis, but just don't fall into that in other games where they're just going to take the ball away from you and beat you back because there's only a few people that can make it back faster on our squad. So I think that's the only thing I could possibly think of to improve on is just try not to fall into that constant passing U pattern for too long. I understand setting up a play. And that's I'm all for that. It's just, don't overuse it.
Yeah, that is absolutely a fair take. I don't really have much else except you carry the momentum this weekend. Carry it. Because you're coming home. You've got a tough opponent coming to town. You're running the Utica Riggies promotion.
Sorry, I can't. I can't help it.
Congratulations to friend of the pod, Jamie Abel, on winning the first team-signed Utica Riggies jersey.
Yes, seriously. I saw that today. I'm like, wait a minute. I know that person.
Yeah. But the Texas Outlaws come to town. At the moment, they sit atop the Western table. They're 6-3-1, 19 points. Their 74 goals are third most in the MASL. Plus 11 goal differential. They haven't been the best at home so far, 2-2, but on the road they're 4-1-1. And they have a ton of offensive options. You have two players in Morales and Mendez averaging over 2 points per game. Morales is second in the league in points. David Ortiz is another one who's a speed. He's the guy that's going to chip you from midfield if you get caught up.
Yep.
He will do that every time.
Mm-hmm.
And he will find the net every time. He's more selective on his shots than Mendez and Morales. They have Vinny Dantas, who we're very familiar with after his time in Baltimore. What?
Come on, Hubert. Why you gotta do this to me? Oh, I'm gonna be calling them the Texas brisket plates.
Not going with Reimers, as the doctor calls them, the bad boys of barbecue.
Yeah, I did like that one too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail it. I just saw it and I laughed. I couldn't help it.
No, you have veteran defense: Cody Ellis, Mike Jones, Uzi Tayu. It's gonna be the first time that the Tayu brothers have faced off in almost a decade. Yeah, outside of practices. All three of those guys are training with Everton this week for U.S. Futsal. Yes, there's the U.S. Futsal camp this week.
Suicide drills.
Just for you three.
Just for you three. All practice. No reason. No reason in particular. Listen, I haven't heard you mention the best part about this weekend. We have the Battle of the Tayu brothers.
I said that this will be the first time they'll have faced off in almost a decade.
I thought
you were too busy laughing about the brisket plates.
I blame Huber.
I feel like I've heard that one before.
Yeah, I have no idea where. No, I completely missed it. So that's my bad. I'm just over my head.
Yeah, it should be a well-matched, well-played game. Last year, Utica beat the Outlaws in overtime at the Bank Center. But their power plays actually worse than ours after this past weekend. They're at 35%. We're at 39%. Their penalty kill, though, is at 67%. And then, we talked about how goalkeepers make a difference. Andrew Coughlin and Pollo Cortez have the same save rate, and the difference in goals allowed per game is 0.03. So we're up for a good matchup here.
Yep. On paper.
Yes.
It's always have to asterisks on paper because once you hit the turf, things can just change in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, it definitely should be a exceptional game this weekend. It's one of those games similar to how I felt about KC towards the end of it, which is if we play this one hard, win or lose, I would be okay with the result. Obviously, we always want to win, but in this instance, I sincerely feel like if we can put forth just an outstanding effort and keep it within like one, I would be happy regardless of what the score ends up being. But I still want to win.
I'll say this. One of the biggest factors could be the crowd at the Odd.
Oh, yeah.
Not taking anything away from Texas, but what were their road games so far? I know they won at Kansas City, but that was a game where Kansas City was without Vandegrift and without Berto Palmer.
Some of their away games
rested Neto for the first three quarters.
Yep. So their away games, at least recent ones, I know they just played Dallas. They played Empire right before, or a few days before that. They played Kansas City
and then Dallas.
Yeah. So
San Diego was postponed, unfortunately, because Pechanga Arena flooded.
Yep. And last night it flooded with rage and tears.
And then they beat Baltimore to start off the season.
Right.
And got stomped by Chihuahua. But that was also before they had Pollo back. So
right. Yeah, so I mean, on the road it's not like they've necessarily been struggling. But I mean, there's at least two arenas there that are also powerhouse arenas. I mean, Chihuahua's a tough place to play. Baltimore, I'm sure, is a tough place to play. Toyota Arena with the Strikers, another one that's going to be definitely a loud, boisterous crowd in all of those arenas. So, they've kind of already been through the ringer for some of these, but they have not been to the Adirondack Bank Center.
No, I mean, yeah, they beat Kansas. It was a 1-goal game. Baltimore, they're averaging less than 2,000. Empire averaging less than 2,000. The one San Diego averaging less than 2,000. Let me find the first one when they lost at Dallas. Because I believe Dallas sold that one out or was close to it. They lost 8-7.
Okay, the first one.
Yeah. Load. Yeah, there were 3,600 in attendance for that one. So the two games that they've played with like a Utica-sized crowd or larger have been 1-goal games. One of them was against their hometown rivals.
Yep.
And might I point out the one win coming against this team in overtime hometown rivals.
True. Yep.
And a Kansas City team without two of their best defenders and sitting their starting goalkeeper for the first three quarters.
Right.
That almost came back and won it. I think the crowd might be able to get to them.
I want to think so.
We've seen not some of these veteran guys, but
yeah, Uzi's dealt with us before. So yeah, he definitely we've seen and we know the story on that one going back a couple years now. So no, he like obviously he'll be fine. He's been here before. He gets it. Some of these other guys have been here as well. So I mean, they've they're not maybe used to the Adirondack Bank Center, but I always say the crowd's a factor in these games, especially when you're home. So I hold to that, and I think it's definitely going to play a role. It's going to factor into how this game plays out too. Mm-hmm. So be loud.
Well, we know that's not a problem for me.
You're not there the whole time.
Well, I'm sorry that we're short-staffed and fans like to come and clean us out of food.
I'm just saying it shouldn't be just up to you.
No. All right, Brandon, you got to yell yourself hoarse in this one then.
I'll try my best.
Keys to this game, obviously going to be limiting their lead scorers there. And hold on, I lost the page there. Morales, Mendez, and Ortiz.
Yes.
Specifically Morales and Mendez. Not that they don't have other options, but they're not quite as deep as Utica has been.
Right.
And I think the other one for me is the continued revival of Frank Tayu as he's gotten more accustomed. Because it wasn't that long ago where we were like, okay, he's off to a slow start. Give him a chance. He'll get it going. A week and a half ago, people were talking about Ronaldinho as a dark horse candidate for MVP, and Frank has overtaken him in points over the weekend.
Yep. Yeah, he's coming into his position, his role on this team, and he's starting to really mesh. I knew it was going to take time. It always takes time when new players come in, and we're trying to see, like, okay, how long is it going to take for them to truly intermingle and mesh with the team? It's never at the beginning of the season. It's always right around, well, like now. Sometimes sooner, sometimes later. But we're starting to see what we would essentially expect from somebody like Frank Tayu. So yes, absolutely needs to keep it up.
I mean, we talk about him offensively. How's he doing? Yeah, he's got a couple block shots. If he just keeps it going and turns, into, I don't know if he needs to be that 2.7, 2.8 point per game guy, but if he can hover around 2 points per game, that'll be plenty for this team.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to, he doesn't need to hit that. We don't need to rely on him that much.
No.
But knowing that he's becoming more of he's a threat. He's becoming more of an integral part of the offense, whereas before he was kind of getting overshadowed for a little bit. He's definitely coming into his own, coming into that dominating role again.
Anything you're looking for specifically in this game?
Keep it up on the defense. We cannot, in my opinion, be a glass cannon. We just can't have that glass cannon mentality, shove the ball down their throat as much as possible. And then, hope that we just outscore them on that. So I want to keep seeing what I've been seeing from Mo, from Juan, from Nelly. I mean, we keep seeing more of that. And some of these other guys that are coming back and playing defense, your Gordy's, even Frank's been getting in on it. Logan, obviously, is another one. If we can keep seeing what we've been seeing from these guys, then I think we'll be good. But they just got to keep it up on the defense.
Yeah. And, just a little, continue getting those contributions from everybody.
Yeah.
I pointed it out on my personal account after the overtime winner.
Yep.
Chino and Nilton lead the team in game-winning goals at the moment and are tied for second in the league with 2 apiece.
Yep. Yeah, they're up there. And
as these second-year guys develop and get a little more accustomed, I mean, well, I guess we could talk about that. Quick predictions for this weekend, and then I'll mention some of these second-year improvements.
Okay. So we only have one game this weekend. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those times where we shouldn't be trying to save anything. So hopefully we can see, full 4 quarters. Obviously, I can't remember. Are they only playing one game this weekend as well?
Yes, they're only playing one game.
Okay, so they've only got the one game as well. So I mean, they're kind of in the same boat. They're going to be throwing everything in the kitchen sink at us. They do play a day sooner than us next week, but that's minor. So I mean, it's going to be a regular. That's the other thing too, is it's going to be, we're back in our own time zone, so hopefully jet lag doesn't play a factor into us. Might play a factor into the Outlaws. Taking all that into account, I think this is going to be a close one. I'm leaning towards like a 6-5 in regulation.
Okay.
Utica.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was going to say 7-6 Utica. Both goalkeepers are good enough to hold the teams under their average for the season. I think the home field advantage plus the slightly more diverse offense gives Utica the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, right now, this is one of the best matchups we'll get between the East and the West all season. So let's enjoy it.
Yeah, this will be a good one. So I'm looking forward to watching this one, and maybe I'll lose my voice too while we're at it.
Mm-hmm. Just quick touch on these second-year guys that have kind of taken over as a big bonus for us.
Yep.
Gio Alves, second-year midfield. Last year, 8 games played, 3 goals. This year, 10 games played, 4 goals, 4 assists.
Okay.
Already doubled up.
Yep.
Keaton Woods. Last year, 6 games. This year, he's played in all 10. 9 goals, 6 assists, 15 points. Last year, he had 3 points total.
Yeah, big difference. Big difference.
Big. He's been quiet the past couple games. No goals in the past 3 and an assist in each of the games this past weekend. So look for him to find the net again.
And he will. He absolutely will.
Our game winner, Steven Fernandez. In 18 games last year, he had 9 goals, 7 assists, 16 points. We both remember in the playoffs where we were in agreement, hey, get him in the lineup. Why are we sitting him? We need him. This year, 9 games, 7 goals, 5 assists, 12 points. He's gone from 0.9 points per game to 1.3.
Yeah.
Good step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Nilton De Andrade, who was snubbed last year in the all-rookie voting, didn't even make the ballot.
Yeah. Not a sore subject at all.
No. 23 games last year, 12 goals, 10 assists, 22 points. This year, 10 games, 10 goals, 6 assists.
I was going to say, he's 6 off from it now.
Yeah.
We're just under. I was going to say, we're just under the half-season threshold here.
Half season to go. He's a 1.6 point per game player at this point.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. Over the past 3 games, I've probably seen 5 breakaways where if he makes the extra pass instead of shooting it, he picks up an assist.
Yep.
So I love the aggressiveness, but sometimes you just got to lay it off and let someone else find the net.
Sometimes it does pay to be unselfish. that's I kind of feel the opposite for a couple times that I've seen like Frank pass it away, where, you know, I felt like he would have potentially had a better chance of just taking the shot himself. So I kind of, I've some people, you know, some of us, it absolutely pays to be unselfish. Others, I want to see be a bit more selfish. And that's, I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing a little bit more from Frank as well, is because he's actually taking those shots now instead of just trying to pass it away and reposition it. Sorry, just my little tidbit there.
Honorable mention. I'll throw him in there because it's his third year, Ronaldinho. Through his first 2 seasons, 26 games, 4 goals, 3 assists. Through 9 games this year, 12 goals, 5 assists. He's averaging just under 2 points a game.
Yep.
He's cooled down a little bit over the past few. Was held scoreless against Tacoma and the Comets.
Yep. Yes, he was.
But he did have 2 assists at Tacoma, and he netted a goal against the Ambush. So,
yeah, no, it may be that, you know, yeah, sure. You said third year, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it may be his third year, but that's still a mountain of improvement over where he has been at. So, I mean, that's a huge improvement. So I love what I'm seeing from a lot of these guys that, you know, I got thinking about this the other day. When Utica became Utica, there's not many of them left.
No.
I mean, you know, out of the original crew, not even counting like Timmy.
No, because he was brought in the second year.
Yeah. You basically have Logan, Nate, and Andrew.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, which is crazy to think about, that the team has changed that much since our very first season. And that's just talking player wise. I mean, obviously, you know, we've had coaching changes as well, going from Ryan Hall to Everton Moreira. So, I mean, there's been so much change in this team and such a shift in play style over that time that like, I would love to go back and watch some of our tape from the first year and compare it to this year and just see the play style shift. Brandon's
you
random
certainly know where to find
points
that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can definitely know where to find that, but yeah, you know, Brandon's random thoughts for the day. Just where this team has been and where it's at now is crazy to think about. And Toby, yep, I can't forget Toby.
Yeah, I was gonna say Toby's on there. If he gets cleared, it'll be Toby.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right, Huber. I forgot about Toby. I just didn't. I'm looking at the current roster, not the inactive guys. So that's my bad.
M2 team plays on the Sunday game doubleheader. Stick around if you can. Again, it's like $11.50 to catch it.
Yeah, already got my tickets.
I'm looking forward to when they play the. Is it the Lancers this weekend or is that next weekend?
Both.
Okay.
It's Lancers this weekend and next weekend.
It'll be interesting to see because I don't know if you saw the Lancers lineup last weekend.
I missed that one.
They went down to Baltimore to play the Arsenal.
Yes.
And this happened like an hour after Harrisburg played. Joey Tavernese suited up. He had 4 goals and an assist. Pat Healy suited up for the Lancers. Domenico Vitale, Darren Toby, Jake Schindler. A lot of former Utica guys there. They're not in M1 anymore. They're in M2.
That's just it's so funny to just, you know, obviously, you know, we want to see Toby playing for us, but it's still going to be nice to be able to see him play. And being able to see Joey, Vitale, Jake, all those guys that we want to see in Utica blue and black that we might not be able to for one reason or another. this just makes it possible that they can be on a team that we can either, obviously this weekend we're probably not going to be cheering them, but in other occasions, yeah, and then maybe just not this weekend and next weekend.
I think that's everything for
one
us.
PSA that I just want to throw out there, because I've actually found this is a bit of a misconception for Utica fans who want to check out Krasnick. Just because you have a season ticket to Utica City does not mean you get a ticket to the M2 to Krasnick. It's not a thing. So get your tickets. They're general admission. They're like $11.50 plus, the typical fees, stuff like that. So if you want to go to the game, get them and come support your M2 squad this weekend, literally at 6:30.
Yeah. You watch one game, you watch the next. Yeah, make sure you get your dinner before that.
Yeah, planning on it. So
support the guys. It'll be great to have them playing on the blue turf in the Aud instead of over at Nexus.
Yep.
Not that there's anything wrong with Nexus. Honestly, I checked out some of their stream, and it was better than some of the MASL ones.
I was going to say, it looked great. I mean, it was
very limited on camera angles, but otherwise.
Yeah. Yes. Very limited on camera angles, but at least it was a solid stream, unlike some other teams that could not say that this weekend, as the feed was absolutely awful for a couple games. So.
Anything else you wanted to add this weekend, Brian, or this week?
No, I'm not even going to give you a SOGs other than that one. Not even going to go for that. Just
no superstructure.
No. Just keep
the stat man. No. The soundboard's dead.
The soundboard's just taking a rest this week. No, just seriously though, we just got to keep at it. Keep the course. Know that not every game is going to be a gimme. Not saying that Harrisburg and Baltimore games were a gimme by any means, but we're starting to really come into our own against teams that aren't them, and we just need to keep moving forward and stay the course of where we're at with the little bits of improvement that we can sprinkle in there, and try not to go back.
Yeah, just keep pushing forward, guys. Keep focused. Hopefully this string of more challenging opponents keeps the team sharp.
Yes. Which just means more improvement for us. So keep at it, guys.
So we'll see everyone Sunday at the Adirondack Bank Center, 3:00. Be loud, be proud. Get your Riggies.
Riggies launcher.
Get your Riggies gear. Get your Riggies ready.
Bring a plate of Riggies to share.
Prepare for me to be obnoxiously fake Italian next week and forget about it.
Oh, God, no.
Hey.
The groan from the peanut gallery.
That piece of gabagool.
Get me out of here.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for those that joined us in the live. We're doing this every week, Mondays at 7. Hopefully closer to 7. But we'll keep posting. Until next time, go Utica.
Get some SOGs. There, did it. Ha.
Thank you for listening to the Keeper's Corner podcast on whatever podcast app you use. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to interact with us, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it. We have a TeePublic shop where you can get UCFC player swag or help support the podcast. Thank you. We appreciate it. And one last thing, go Utica City.